If we want to build the control interface for this spy, there's two things that we need. We need the color, and we need the value for pi1 and the color and value for pi2. So that's what we're going to build here. We're going to build the parameters first, the animatable parameters, and then we're going to build an interface to edit them. So those two go hand by hand, and we need to create two. So the first one, we're going to first create our values as parameters. So I'm going to say value1. The type of value that we're going to create is a float. So I'm going to say type colon and of type float. When you create a parameter, you need to define which UI element it will relate to. So I'll say UI. And when I know that in the rollout I will create a spinner, so I use the naming convention SPN for spinner underscore, and I'm going to name it value1, the same thing. And the default of this value will be 100.0. So what we did is we created value1. It's of type float. The UI that I will create, because it's not created already, will be named value1. This is the, we're going to create it here in the UI for the rollout. So we need to create a spinner value called SPN underscore value1, because otherwise we're going to get an error when we're going to run that script. And the default value here will be 100. So that's going to be our value1. I'm going to copy this line. And guess what? That's going to be value2. It's also going to be a type float. And we're going to create a spinner called value2. We also need color1 and color2, so quite easy. I'm going to say color1. It's going to be of type, guess what? Color. The UI, I'm going to call that color picker, so CLR underscore, and I'm going to call that color1 space. And the default, we're going to give it just a gray value, something like what you put your three values in bracket and in between commas. So I'll say 155, 155, 155. So that's going to be kind of a light gray kind of default color. So we've created color number 1. I'm going to copy this and paste this, and that's going to be color 2. Color 2 here, and the default will be the same. And here we go. We got our parameters. Now we only created the parameters. We need to create the user interface for this. So we need a spinner that will be called, I'm going to just copy these first, value1. We need another one called value2. So I'm going to bring that back here. We need a color picker that's going to be called color1. And this one here, color2. That's going to be our color picker. So this is the interface that we need to create to correspond to the parameters. We don't have to stop there. If you want to create buttons, we could create buttons. If we want to create a text or a label to put some copyrights or to put some instructions, we could do that as well. So that's all possible. But right now I'm going to focus on what's essential for this. So we want to create a spinner. So I'm going to call spinner. Same thing here. We want to create a spinner. So I'm going to call that spinner. So spinner is the keyword to create a spinner. Then I'm going to create a color picker. So that's called color picker. And I'm going to copy this here, color picker. And here we go, color picker, color 2. We need to give them a name. So this one here, I want to display value1 colon. That's going to be displayed over there. The range of, like you saw when we created it manually in the user interface, we needed to give it a range and a default value. So when we do this, range colon, there's 3 values that need to be put in bracket. 0, the minimum value. Then I can put the higher value, and this is where I can put any value that I want. So I'll put 100,000 here, or and then I'll say 100 for the default value. And when you create it by scripting, you have a bit more flexibility than in the user interface when we created it in the parameter editor. So that's where you can. That's another reason why creating it by scripting allows you to go a bit further. Again, it's going to be of type float. So this is going to be type float. We need to give it the type, and we can align it to the right, to the left. In our case, what we did before is we align it to the right. So I'm going to keep it aligned to the right. I'm going to copy all of this for my second spinner, and I'm going to call it value2. Same type of range, and the color, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give it a name. So like we did before, color2 colon, and I put the colon there because by default it's not going to be put, so we need to add it. When we do the parameter editor, it adds it by default, so we don't have to do it. But in the case of scripted, if you want to have a colon, you need to add it manually. So we're going to create a color. By default, we are going to put same thing. We're going to say 155 155 and 155. Those values, the default here and the default there, don't need to match. But internally, color 1 will, the default will be this, and until the UI modifies this, it's gonna, like, the two will not match. So that's why you want the default color to match, so that it's internally that's what it is being saved, but visually that's what you see and it matches. So there's no difference in between. When you do a color picker, there's a few mode. So if we say modal, that's kind of we can say false, which means that you can continue to you need to pick something before you continue. And align right, that's going to be so this way, if you open the color picker, you're not going to have 1,000 open at the same time. So I'm going to copy all of this. Oops, Control Z. I'm going to copy all of this, Control C and Control V. That's going to be, oh, I call it color 2, so I'm going to call that color 1, and the rest is all good. Color picker, color picker. And the methods here, we're going to do them in the next video. But now what we did is we created all of the parameters needed. We created the UI. And if I do execute this, what you'll see is that we now have our pie chart. The values is here. The color is there. So the color picker is already done. So you can see that you can go and pick and choose the color. So I can go back here and say, I want that color here. Okay. And I can go back here and choose another color. And here we go. So that's kind of the interface that we just created. If I trash this and do this again, attribute older, leave it empty, and execute again, you can add it to yours. So if you plan correctly and if you use a naming convention that is consistent, what you can do is that now we're creating a pie chart for 2 pies, but by copying and pasting, you can add more. You can have a 4 pie, 5 pie. You can, by reusing the same script, very easily you can create control objects for your scenes and add that to your attribute older, and it's very easy to reuse the script. So what I'll do now is I'll just I'll save the script so that we're not losing it, and I'm gonna put that into my temp folder where I did put the rest here. It's temp scripts, and I'm gonna call this one pie custom attributes, and we're gonna continue to edit that in the next video.